The next tracks we're going to hear is Robb G and the Fat Conductor, The Need to Feed, and Sharp's Girl Sweat, your remix. So tell us a bit about The Need to Feed with Fat Conductor.
That one's actually a fun one because the Fat Conductor is my friend Dylan, who helped me with all the tracks on this album as far as that I mixed it all down in his studio. He's been a friend, a mentor, just someone great in my life for a long time. So went over to his house one day, we mixed down something else from the album. I can't remember what it was. We went out and grabbed a bite to eat, and he looks at me, he's like, do you want to write a tune? I said, sure. So went back, we started writing this song. Then his phone rings, and it's a student from Australia calling because he had an Ableton lesson that he'd forgotten about. Oh. And he said, I got to go in the other room for an hour. You want to keep working on this? So I worked on it for another hour. He was done his lesson. We spent another half hour on it. Less than 3 hours, start to finish, and it just, things clicked and it happened. And it's The Need to Feed. It's one of the deeper tracks on the album. Maybe not as aggressive, but it's still fun. And, you know, when it drops, it drops. So,
of course it does. And I want to interview the Fat Conductor, so if he's hearing this, you know, he can give me a call. And then Girl Sweat.
Girl Sweat. This really nice guy from Edmonton, Sharps. Heard me play at Shambhala last year. Messaged me on MySpace being like, hey, you know, I wouldn't have called this Electro House or whatever, but it's bassy, kind of whatever party music. Check it out. And I fell out of my chair. It was amazing. And so I wrote him back, you know, is this out? I want to license this. Like, what? And he'd put it out, but he'd put it on his label. He had limited distribution, so I licensed it from him. And the version that's on the album is my remix of it. So I remixed it, and that's the copy that's on the album.
Well, then let's get everybody falling out of their chairs. Here's Robb G and the Fat Conductor, The Need to Feed. Sharp's Girl Sweat, Robb G remix, right here on Scenester Radio.
Robb G from Promo Records, and you're tuned in to ScenesterRadio.com.
The need to feed.
mention that dirty word you talked about at the beginning? Breaks. Now, you've been known as a Canadian breaks icon, and I have to ask you because it just seems that to be a genre that tends to be forgotten about. I mean, how do you feel about our break scene here in Toronto, Canada?
What scene? It really is my answer to it.
Okay.
We were lucky enough that when things were good on a global scale, that Toronto had a hub. There was a lot of guys here. Breaks had been part of the integral mesh for since early mid 90s. You know, sometimes it was the back room or the side room, but there was almost always a breaks room, especially at the big events. There's a lot of guys locally supported it. All the big international people always came through. But with the demise of the style as a whole in the world, you know, and then we're in this little pocket here. So I had a choice a couple years ago, and I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, okay, I can keep playing breaks or I can keep DJing, because I couldn't do both.
Yeah.
So there's still some people pushing it. You know, there's some local people.
Yeah, there are.
There's people doing it, but it's the same 100 people at the same kind of places. Like Shambhala is a really good example for that. It's this great festival in the west coast of BC. A lot of people consider it and treat it as the kind of pre-party for Burning Man, because it happens a few